was me and him against the world. Two people against the whole world. It was him against the whole world. And you know what? He's here today, and everyone else is still crying.
I used to never alone. Hashem Yisbarach is always with every single Yid. And Baruch Hashem, when Rabbi Kleiman came to me to ask me to come and talk to tonight's dinner, I immediately said yes. How can you say no to Rabbi Kleiman? Actually, our family, the Rubashkin family and the Kleiman family, have been together for as long as I remember. And the Rav was very close to my father with him. And I feel it an honor to be able to be here tonight and share with you some words of Mercedes Chizuk, how I saw, we all saw a real miracle happen, and share with you what a yeshiva, how a yeshiva can change a person's life, because the way I was able to go through the difficult challenges for the 8.5, 9 years was only through the education that I got in the yeshiva. And I'm the average guy that was working in a place. Suddenly Hashem put me in a very difficult test, and because I had been given over the lessons of how we're supposed to have a munah in Hashem Yisbarach and betachan Hashem Yisbarach, the Aleph and Beis, I always knew that Hashem will give me the gimel, the gula that I needed. To start off the word I'm putting, because tonight is Tainas Esther, we're going into Tainas Esther, which is very appropriate for tonight's event, is when Mordechai gives over to Esther through Asoch what's going on. He found out that Haman, Harasha, the wicked Haman, was trying to kill all the Jewish people. He said to him, the Megillah says that he told him, Kol Asher Karohu, everything that happened with him. It's singular, what happened with Mordechai. And obviously, it's not the question is, why does it say what happened with him when he's talking about the whole nation of Israel, of Eden? And the answer is because by Mordechai, the fate and what's happening to every single Jew, he took it personally. And that's why it says, Askal Shekarohu. And just listening over here, watching the film, and listening to all the beautiful people speaking, I see that all the people in the Achai, and actually my son was 1 year a counselor in the Achai, and is that they take every single Yid's plight personally. That's their individual problem, and they wish to give them a lot of success. So let me share with you the story that happened with me, and what I learned in yeshiva that helped me go through it. I was, thank God, starting off Pesum Nisa. We're going to proclaim the miracle that Hashem did with me on Zois Chanukah. Hashem freed me actually 2 times from prison. And one time was Chanukah, and both times it happened in a sequence of Aleph, Beis, Gimel. It started on Aleph of a month, it continued into the Beis of a month, and it finished off in the Gimel of the month. The first time, what happened was, this goes back 9 years ago, and they charged me, they arrested me, they put me in a place called jail, and every single person, every single citizen in the United States of America is entitled to a thing called bail. Bail means that they have a charge against you, you put up money, and then they allow you to go home and prepare for the trial, because every American citizen is presumed innocent until proven guilty, or so they say. And by me, the prosecutors argued that to a judge, this is all public record, you can look up for yourself, they argued that I am not the bail is only given to a citizen of the country if he's not a dual citizen. If he's not, in other words, if he only holds one passport, if he's only an American, he gets a bail. But if he's also a citizen from a different country, he's denied bail. And the prosecutors argued that I am not a full-blooded American. I'm actually, in their words, a de facto dual citizen. And why is that? Because I'm Jewish. You thought public school was difficult, right? So, what does it mean? They said because I was born in Borough Park, USA, and I never held any other passport. But they claim because I'm a Yid, and therefore I'm not a full American citizen. I'm really also an Israeli citizen, because I could go to Israel and I could get an Israeli passport, and therefore actually they weren't talking personally to me, they were talking to every single Jew. Every single Jew is considered a de facto dual citizen, and therefore I should be denied bail. The prosecutors argued this, and the judge accepted it, and I was put into prison I actually was there for 73 days for no other reason than I'm Jewish. How many people can say they were in prison because they were Jewish? I had the chus to be there, and I went through obviously a very hard time, and finally when the time came, Hashem made it. I had another hearing in the appeals court, and it started on Aleph Rosh Chodesh Shvat, and Beis Rosh Chodesh Shvat, Hashem made the judge reverse and give me bail. And on Gimel Shvat, I was freed from prison. And I saw over there, the lesson that I saw was that through Aleph and Beis, through Amunah B'Tachon, I will come to my Geulah and total Geulah. And an interesting story happened in that particular jail I want to share with you, which actually I saw was a lesson from Hashem of how I was supposed to go through this whole thing, and this happened on Chanukah. It was Chanukah, and I had to go through a whole argument. Not me personally, there's an organization called Aleph, and they work helping the Jewish prisoners, and they achieved a miracle by allowing this jail in Iowa to allow me to light a menorah with fire, and not only on candles, but also on olive oil. So they finally got permission. The warden said that he found a room that was fireproof. Actually, I never understood that, because every single room in that prison is fireproof. It's all made out of steel and cement. And that became the first night of Hanukkah. They take me out of the cell and they bring me to a room. It was a big room. It was actually a very scary looking room. It was a large area with a lot of benches inside. And I couldn't imagine why they would want to put so many people in such a place but I never got the answer. And on the side there was a little wall. He puts the menorah down on the wall, and he says the guard tells me to go do your thing. So I go over to the wall. I wanted to see what's on the other side. So I see it's a bathroom, it's a toilet. So I turn around to the guard and I say, sir, I can't light the candles here. He says, why not? He says, because there's a toilet here, and I can't make a blessing to God next to a toilet. We're putting a holy menorah next to a toilet. So he looks at me and says, what am I going to do? This is the only place they gave me permission to do it. So I said, you got to find me a different place. A Hanukkah miracle happened, and he agreed and to take me to a different room. And on the way, I said to him, I got another request from you. I was very happy. So I said, I got another request from you. What's the other request? I said, listen, we both agreed that the warden agreed to give me 30 minutes to sit next to the menorah. But really, our custom is to have the candles burn for 50 minutes. So I'm asking you, maybe you'll be so kind and let me sit there for 50 minutes. So he makes a short stop. He turns around to me and he asks me, he couldn't compute the whole thing. First, this is not good, and I want 15 minutes. But Hashem made him ask me the question like he says this to Rubashkin. How do you light the menorah at home? What'd you do over there? So I said to him, no, really, and at home, I actually had the menorah lit for about 2 hours. I sat there because I light the menorah, and I'd sit there for 2 hours. Good salesman. I really wanted to do the mitzvah the right way. And I was waiting for his response, what he's going to do. And what he told me, the way he said it to me, is actually, to me, there was the way Hashem was giving me a message. He says to me, okay, he thought about it for a few seconds. He says, okay, listen, you're going to do it over here the exact same way you did it at home. And he let me stay there the whole time. And I got this a lesson from the Midrash that as I'm going through this difficult Messiah, it doesn't mean, okay, outside I was a Jew one way, and inside I'll be a Jew a different way. I had to be the same Jew outside, the same way I was going to be inside. And this is how the thing started, and it continued. And then I went home. Thank God, I was there for a few months. We prepared for what they called a trial, which we found out later was full of problems, that they put up false witnesses, etc., all the things that happened over there. And they put me a second time in the place called prison. The second time, they bring me into a room, And the guy comes in as a burly fellow from, this happened in South Dakota. You know what South Dakota is? Somewhere in the middle of nowhere. And he brings me in the room. You're alone sitting in the room, but thank God I always had the faith that I was never alone. I always felt God was with me, and I had full trust in God that He's going to help me through this whole thing. I just had to hang on tight. Where did I get this from? The reason I'm telling these stories is I explain to you what a yeshiva, how yeshiva is so important. We never know the tests that a person goes through in life, and every time a yeshiva doesn't only learn with a student another bad gemara, another halacha. He teaches the student how to view the world in the proper context and how to go through life in every difficult situation as a Jew does it. So I'm standing over there, the guy comes to the big box, and this is after they made a guilty verdict. I'm obviously a little shook up, and the guy says to me, take off your clothes and put on change into the Purim clothes. It's Purim now, not those Irish clothes. So I had a choice. I took off my jacket, took off my shoes, took off my hat, whatever, threw it in there. I got to my tzitzis. Now, the previous experience I had has allowed me to keep my yarmulke and tzitzis. I was sure that here also they'll allow me to keep my yarmulke and tzitzis. So I sort of half asking, half saying, I can keep my yarmulke and tzitzis, right? He says, nope, everything got to go in the box. So I said, yarmulke also? He says, yeah. So I say to him, one second, guy, maybe you don't understand. I'm a Jewish man. And a Jewish man has to always wear a yarmulke and tzitzis wherever he goes. And if you're forcibly going to take away from me my yarmulke and tzitzis, I won't be able to move anymore because a Jew can't walk 4 steps without yarmulke and tzitzis. I'm stuck. So he looks at me. He got a little bit. And says, "Listen," he says, "Listen, buddy." He got my buddy also. I'm standing here half dressed, and he said, "Listen, buddy," he tells me, a lot of things are going to change for you tonight. And when he said it to me, that's what actually, again, Hashem made the right words come out of his mouth, because I realized what he wants. He wants to change me. And right then and there, I made a decision, I'm not changing. I'm being the exact same me that I was before. It was a very dark moment, but I knew if I stay close to Hashem Yisbarach will always save me. And I very calmly told him, I'm sorry, but I can't take off my yarmulke and tzitzis. Now, he got very confused, because I guess in his handbook, they never taught him what happens when a Jewish inmate doesn't want to take off his yarmulke and tzitzis. So he takes me into another place, like a cage, locks me in there, and he goes, brings his boss. And his boss comes in and says, what's going on? I said, what's going on? I'm complaining to him as if he's going to help me. He says, your guy over here wants to take away my yarmulke and tzitzis. And I explained to him that I can't, I'm a Jewish man, always must. The truth of the matter is, in America, they have to give me yarmulke and tzitzis. This whole thing is an amazing thing that's going on anyways. Who am I going to complain to? The cops? I'm talking to the cops. So I tell him, he wants to take my yarmulke and tzitzis. I can't move without yarmulke and tzitzis. So please tell him to let me have my yarmulke and tzitzis. He says, 1 minute. He goes out, and he comes back. He's going to ask his rabbi a question. I guess he emailed his rabbi a question. He comes back, and whoever the rabbi was on the other side is speaking to me, and he says to me, you got to take off your yarmulke and tzitzis, because dina de machos dina. He came a Talmud Chacham also. And therefore I got to take it off. Imagine I have to take my. So I said to him, I don't know if you know what dina de machos dina means. But it definitely doesn't mean that I have to take my yarmulke and tzitzis, because I repeated to him the words of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. I said there's a brave Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe. He sat in prison also in Russia, and he said that only the Jewish body went into exile, not the Jewish soul. So when it comes to rules and regulations you want me to do, I will do them. But when it comes to Jewish things, you got to make sure that I have all my religious requirements done. So he didn't know what to do. I wasn't sure he understood what I was saying to him, but he left. He came back and says to me, I'll make with you a deal. Make you a deal. You can keep either your yarmulke or your tzitzis, half. So for a second, being the businessman, I figured I won something, right? But then I realized that there's no giving in here. I got to be straight and firm. I said to him, I'm sorry, I can't give up any of them. I need both. So he says to Rubashkin, listen to me. If you're going to listen to me, I'm going to let you out. And you're going to be with other people. And if you don't, I'm going to punish you. So I said to him, I'm not really arguing with you. I just can't do it. So he walks out. He came back with 5 big, heavy guys, and they're all dressed for war. I mean, they're wearing helmets. I'm sitting there in handcuffs and chains, and they're coming with helmets, face guards, shields, bats. They're coming against me. So I started laughing. It was just a very funny scene. And they took me out and they picked me up, threw me in the wheelchair, and I wind myself up. In hell, in Gehenna, there's 7 levels. There's 7. This was a lower level of hell, and I'm laying over there without They made me take my clothes and put on clothes of a crazy man. They want to make me feel degraded like a crazy person. And I'm thinking to myself, now what? And this is, I guess, one of the darkest times that I felt. And I got strength again from the learning what I learned in yeshiva, and I knew the few absolute truths that are true, and I pushed away any other thought. You ever do water here? What's the best? For sure was God's holding with me, and the second thing for sure is that God loves me, and the third thing for sure is God hears my prayers, and I gotta stand close to Hashem as I can. And I actually stopped to Hashem. I said to Hashem, listen, you're hiding very well from me, but I'm holding on as strong as I can. The night went through, and by the morning, a few hours later, they brought me back from Yarmulke and Tzitzis. And when that happened, I knew that Hashem was with me, because throughout the whole 8.5 years, there was many stories where I saw that within the whole darkness, as I was keeping Torah mitzvahs the same way as I was outside, and Hashem was always with me and always gave me the success that I needed. They tried to give me, in the other jails, they tried to give me food that wasn't kosher, they kept me not eating, they tried to take up my Talmud film. So I'm getting into the details of other stories but I saw in every single situation, as long as I stayed strong, and I stayed with a firm faith, at the end I got the geula, I got what I wanted. And I want to point out, we read the Megillah. Megillah tells us that the Mordechai Mordechai did not bow down to Haman. What does it mean he didn't bow down to Haman? Mordechai didn't give in to what all the secular or idol worshipping ways of Haman. And at first it looked like Haman was winning and Mordechai was losing. But Mordechai stayed strong, and he stayed close to Hashem. He fasted, he prayed, he gathered all the Yidden to fast and pray. And through that came the miracle that we celebrate today of Purim. And he winds up being the Mishnah Lamel, the king, and Haman winds up hanging from the gallows. And this is a lesson to us also, that the way we can continue our Yiddishkeit, the way we can continue to our nation, is to give over to our children the ways of Hashem, like Mordechai, not to bow down to Goyishkeit. There's no reason in the world why any Jewish child should be in a public school to begin with. It's a tragedy. And we have to teach him the ways of Hashem. I want to say a few more little points, that not only when I acted, thank God, always like a Yid, I was visibly Jewish in a place surrounded. You can call it like a public school, maybe worse than a public school, because over there you had a lot of very, very tough guys, but you also have also tough guys. And not only did they not look down at me, they actually all respect me very much. I'll tell you 2 stories or 3 stories about how Hashem protected me in every situation, and how they actually respected a Jew who acted like a Mordechai. The first time I once walked out of the cell, this was up here in upstate New York, and there was a gang of guys playing cards next to the cell. I didn't realize, I walked by and I tripped over a fan. It was a hot day. And I tripped over a fan that was cooling them off. Mexicans are usually short. This guy was a Mexican, he was like 6'2". He jumps up. He had diamonds in his teeth. How I would put diamonds in teeth, I don't know. I had to brush the teeth, but okay. So he jumps up and he starts screaming at me and really, really looking for a fight. Why did you pull out the plug? I said, the thing was in the way. Anyway, we can't talk to these people. I tried to move out of the way, and he followed me. Baruch Hashem, there was another guy there that did like me. He broke up the fight. But I noticed that I found out this guy was a gang leader, and he was after me. What am I going to do? I did what I always did. Rosh Hashanah was, I think, 2 weeks later, not long later, I was in the cell, and suddenly the guard starts screaming, lock in, lock. Lock in means a fight broke out, and everybody got to go back in the cells. I was in there already, and the cellmate that was with me comes in, I said, what happened? So he says, boy, you should see in a fight. What happened was, these two guys that were after me, and looking to hurt me in a bad way, they were standing by the door, and a gang member from a different gang walks in through the door. I guess it was the day they bring new customers. He walked into the door, and they asked him, hey, you are so-and-so? So he said, yeah. And so they realized it's a rival gang member, and they started fighting with each other in front of the guard. Because this could have happened in the yard, it could have happened anywhere else. Hashem made it to happen right in front of the guard. The guard called for backup. They came in, and they took away these two guys that were going to hurt me. So I saw how Hashem, even though I didn't get the Yeshua yet that I was waiting for, but at the end, he was with me, protecting me, that these two guys were looking to hurt me. Hashem pulled them out of there. They pulled them out and they transferred them to a different jail. I never saw them again. The two most short stories, the time is tight, but always just by respect, one small story. I was once sitting in the computer room, I typed to my family on the parsha every week. I keep contact with my family. I speak to them about Dvar Torah over the email. And the telephone minutes you have like an average of 9 to 10 minutes a day. So I just type them. These two guys are sitting there, and they got an email from, I guess, from a girlfriend or somebody, and they started speaking a very vulgar conversation. It's a conversation I didn't want to listen to. So I was trying to ignore them, and they weren't getting the message that they were bothering me. So I decided to ask them to leave. I turned around to them, I said, listen guys, I'm much too young for this conversation. Can you please stop? So I was expecting them to turn around and give me a few curse words and tell me to leave. But instead, they said, oh, I'm sorry, we apologize. They shut down their computer and they left. It's a small thing, but we see over here that when these guys were 2 against 1, they were tough guys. I was asking them something, they were out of the blue. I was once walking out of a sukkah, and I had another story with the officers. I once walked out of a sukkah, I was 6 years into the thing, and I was saying Tehillim, and there's a thing about saying the whole Tehillim, for Fuhr Shleimer, there's a special sgula. Yeah, where's the Becharian? Another sgula. It's a sgula for the Fuhr Shleimer, there's a sgula to say the whole Tehillim without a hefsek. So I used to do that. I said the whole Tehillim without a hefsek. I have some people in mind, and it was sukkahs. And they called recall. Recall means everybody has to go back to the barracks. I was middle of Tehillim, I didn't want to talk to anybody. I was afraid that in the way, I bump into somebody, he'll talk to me, and I'll be mafsik. So I made up my mind, I'm not talking to anybody. I took my little vanessik, I walked outside, and boom, I meet the captain of the place, a very high-ranking officer, and the assistant warden, that's the top guy. The assistant walks over to me and says, hey, Rubashkin, what do you have in your hand? I'm holding a lulav, looks like a spear, in the middle of a prison yard. What are you holding in your hand? I didn't want to talk. So I wanted to tell him that I'm in the middle of praying, I can't talk. So I said to him, no, no. I'm pointing to my tailor. I don't get into me. And if this was anybody else would have done it, I would have had to. If it's called insolence, chutzpah, they throw you into the shoe. But he didn't. He says, oh, Rubashkin, so what are you holding in your hand? So I said, I figured if the kid doesn't know what nuah means, maybe he knows what anu means. So I start saying, anu. Well, anyway, the captain grabs him by his hand, pulls him away from me, and they leave. Later, I was thinking over what just happened. I figured I owe him apologies. I kept it the next day to him. I say to him, yesterday he came over to me, asked me a question. I want to apologize. I was trying to be a chutzpahdik, but I was praying, and I wasn't supposed to talk at that point in time. So he says, listen, Rubashkin, I had no idea what you're talking about. And I knew you were up to something, so it was okay with me, and I left you. So, but speaking of the story, that we act like Mordechai Yehudi, we act who we really are, we act like a real Yid. Not only do we lose respect, we don't lose respect by the nations, we actually gain respect. And I want to finish up with wishing Rabbi Kleinman and all the beautiful workers of Achai, to raise all the money they need, and continue the yeshiva, and teach the kids to be proud Mordechai Yehudis.
Thank you, Rabbi Rubashkin Shakur. Thank you very much. Beautiful words.